Let's start the second part of the animation. Go to the film folder, create the second sequence here. Now open it. Go to the second window. Here we have the cinematic viewport mode on. Press the triple bar button and create a camera. Then name it and drop it in the sequence. Turn on the grid to make the work more comfortable. Now we move on to the angle of the camera. Let's change focal length in the camera's settings. For now, we'll put it at 30. Now we need to turn Decor back on. For this, we have a folder called In-Game. Press the eye icon. But these objects won't be present during render. We can notice this because of the missing shadows, which should have been on these models. There is an easy way to select all the models in the In-Game folder. Right-click the folder, select, and click all descendants, then write Game in the Settings window and turn off this function. You can see that as a result, we have shadows back. Now during render, our models will be visible. Go to the camera's viewport. I'll try to adjust the angle so it looks nice. First, we do the animation for the camera. I select linear interpolation since it fits the camera nicely. Select 60 FPS. This stands for frames per second. The length of the sequence is 10 seconds. Now change camera cuts. I chose this angle for the first frame, and let's fixate this position. Now we need manual focus distance. The camera should focus on the leaves of the plant. Update the camera's fixation again. I close the aperture a bit. This is the diaphragm. Let's set it to 5. I don't change the exposure because it's set to the fixated mode right now, and it will make the work easier. We can change it in the camera settings or in post-processing. Next, we'll change the first angle so it's a little bit higher. This is how the first frame looks like. Now let's move to the last frame. The camera will be looking at our teapot, like this. And we'll add a key for the animation in the transform setting. Let's check it. Looks good. Now I go to the first frame. The focus is on the leaves. We can also animate the focus. For example, the focus should shift to our tableware after a second. Let's set the focus on these leaves at the first second. If we go to the camera settings, we can see the icon of the animation keyframe. It means that we can animate these parameters. Well, the auto mode will suit the focus nicely, so I first change it. Next, we have 44 centimeters here, and the focus is on the leaves. Thus, we'll keep this parameter for the first second. I add the animation key here. So, when it is at 1.20 or 1.30 seconds, the focus will be on the decor. For this, select the dropper and select the needed model. As we can see, the focus has shifted to the background. In order to fixate it, we need to add the key yet again. Let's check it. Now we can change focal length consequentially. For example, it will be at 30 in the beginning, and let's try to set it to 40 mm at the end of the sequence. Let's see the result. Now we change the camera's position according to the focus distance. Here, where the cut ends. Here in Transform, we also add the key. Let's change its type and update the camera's position one more time. Next, put focus distance on the teapot as well and update the key. Put the line here, and if we press 1 on the keyboard, it will go to Auto, the first mode. That's it, now we check. Let's try to zoom in even more. I set local length to 45 mm. In the beginning it was at 30, and now I put it at 30 and then turn on fixation. Now I set it to 40 instead of 45 and update the key one more time. Again, it starts from 30 and goes up to 40. That's it, now we save. Next, our first step is to add models to the sequence, which will be a part of the animation. Go to the second window, so it's easier to work. The plant will take part in animation. As we can see, the control points are where we put them. This is also important, we talked about this in the previous masterclass. All these models will be a part of the animation. Now I go here. Let's select the 7th second, and then I press S on the keyboard. All the models are ready, so let's save the progress. The first model for the animation is the plant. I select the last animation key. It should be set before the focus changes at the first second. So I put it on the first second and change the scale of this model to 0 in the first frame at the start of the timeline. Next we check. This ended up being way too quick. So let's try setting scale to 0.5. For now, we'll put this model outside of the camera's view and then add the key in transform. Press play. I think this was even slower. We can set scale to 1, this parameter is set to 100%, and make the animation of this plant in motion. Now we check the result. The result is not very good, so we'll reverse the changes. I move the plant a bit in the first frame. Now it will start appearing here. Add the key in transform. This is good, and we save. We move on to the next model of the animation after the focus shifts to the background. Let's start. I select the animation key. Let's make the model appear at 1.60 or 2 seconds. And it will start appearing while the focus is shifting at 1.35 seconds. The exact details are not that important here. I set the model scale to just 0. This is good. This animation was easy to make, so we save. Now we have cups here, so let's try to animate them in different ways. First, we'll start with this one. I select the last key. The first animated piece of the tableware is a reference point for us. The cup will start appearing as soon as the first animation is over. So we start a bit earlier, from the place where the animation ends, and then we move forward. It will appear here. I can raise this cup a bit in the first frame. I add the key in transform and set the scale to 0. Right now, we can't change the model because scale is set to 0, but we can still move and change the model. I rotate it to 130 degrees and upgrade transform once again. Now we check. We can see some rotation while the model is appearing. I will turn this off for now, so this line doesn't get in the way. And let's see the animation one more time. It's done. Now I select the second cup. Let's choose this one. And we do the same as the previous animation. Raise it, rotate it to 170 degrees, but in the other direction. I will change this model scale like this. I add the key in transform while moving the model a little bit to the left. Then I set scale to 0 and save by pressing Save All. Let's check it. This one ended up being a little bit more interesting. Next, we select the third cup. Just as before, we repeat the previous actions. It will start appearing here. I change its position a bit, then rotate it to 270 degrees, add the key and set the scale to 0. Let's check. I'll say it again, everything depends on your imagination. You can approach animation however you want. Now we will animate the next model. We will hide the tableware on it for now. After selecting all of the models, I press the eye icon. Our model will start to grow in scale after the cups have appeared. We add the key to, for example, 4.60 seconds. From here, this model will appear by descending from above. I add the key, and then it will start appearing from here. I set scale to 0. Let's see the result. It has appeared, and now I will change how it descends in the curve editor. After selecting, I press 3 on the keyboard. And now we use the curve editor. Maybe it's a bit too much. We can lower it after a strong descent. I take a copy of the last key while moving it a bit and put the copy here. I press 4 on the keyboard. It should be linear. Here the model will sag a bit after the descent. I add the key, zoom in and then rise it a bit. I add another key and check the result. Great, let's save. And after it's finished descending, let's make it go up a bit. I'll just update the key in Transform. Let's see the hidden models in order. We will animate this model. It will appear from the left side after the descent. I add the last key. Here. And the beginning will be here. The key is added. This model will appear in a simple and quick way. The only thing is that its scale needs to be set to 0, otherwise it can be seen in the initial frames. Thus, scale should stay at 0 till 4.50 seconds. Here I set it to 0, and now it can be seen in its initial frames. It will appear only when it gets closer to the other models and adds up here. Now I select the T model. After the model gets in its place, I will save the result in 5.60 seconds. After the animation, the T model raises a bit. I will lower it. Add the animation key and set the scale to 0. Now we save and move on to the next model. We'll start with this one. It will appear at 6.50 seconds. Let's keep the last result here. Next, this model will appear here. I set scale to 0 and add the key in transform. Here I set it to 1. It stays up here. I raise it a bit, randomly rotate it, and add the key in transform once again. Let's check. I move the first key a bit so it appears a little slower. Now I added the last key. I press 3 on the keyboard after selecting the key. We can see the raise and the descent in the curve editor. Here I change it as well by pressing 3. We can change these directions manually. After this model finishes descending, it also rotates while appearing and returns to its place, so we rotate it while it's in its place. For example, I rotate it in the opposite direction and then update the animation. I rotate it in the opposite direction. Then update the key. Now it appears and lowers. I can take a copy of the result and put it close by. Next, we also add a little combination after zooming here. I change the scale and lower it a bit. Good enough. Now we will make the second animation even smoother. Here it will be out of frame. I add the animation key. We can zoom in order to speed up the animation. I put a copy of the animation key a little bit behind. I select these two keys and press 3 on the keyboard. The type is now changed to break. Next, we can change the blue line after going to the curve editor. The graph indicating descent should be like this. It will lower while constantly accelerating. Next, we use the spring effect here in the middle. I added the third key. Now it both rises and stretches. Great! Both animations are done differently. Let's check. Now we have two last models left. First, we'll do the animation for the model under the teapot. After selecting, I put the last result at 8 seconds. We can also move it so it's out of the frame, then I move it here, move back and add the key in transform. After it appears, the animation for the teapot should start. The teapot will appear in its place at 9.50 seconds and we set the beginning at 8 seconds. I raise the teapot a bit, rotate it in a random direction, so it looks more interesting. Now we add the key in transform and set the scale to 0. Now it appears. It's done. Now we save everything we've done. I go to the initial frame and press play. Here we go. I hope this masterclass was helpful for you. Till next time.